Welcome to this week's edition of the Belau Report. I'm Jean Belau. Our guest this week is a familiar face to our viewers and to everyone in the Rochester area, Shaun Palmer. And Shaun, you're also a candidate.
Yes, I'm running for the City Council presidency or council person at large. There's 3 of us running, and it's a primary coming up on August 13th. So I hope everybody gets out and votes. We've been sending out postcards and being in the neighborhood talking with people. And last night we did our League of Minnesota, our League of Women Voters debate, and that went well attended. And now it's posted on our website. Our website is Rochester, F-O-R, Rochester, ROCHESTER.org or com, whichever you prefer.
Okay, and who are your competitors?
Dean Kowalski is one of them. He ran for mayor 2 years ago, and then Randy Schubring, and he's on a leave of absence from the Mayo Clinic. He's a lobbyist for Mayo, and he is from St. Paul, ran for city council in St. Paul, and he is first time running in Rochester.
Okay, and that's just 3?
Correct. It's just 3 for us right now. It's interesting. The city of Rochester has 3 city council seats up at this time. So in the second ward, we have 4 people running. And then in the 4th ward, we have 3 people running. And then again, in the 6th ward, we have 4 people running. So we had a lot of enthusiasm to see people come out in the race. And we'll narrow that down to 2 coming up here. And it's a wide range of candidates. I've met most of them, and I've been impressed with most of our candidates.
Good. That would be a good council.
It would be. Brooke Carlson's our council person, our president right now. I would not have ran if she was running, because I think that's hard to do, to sit at the desk next to somebody and say you're going to run. She's done a good job for us, and so we like to thank her for her service and her family. And it takes a lot of work to be council president. And I tell everybody, the Randy Stavers had a job, and he was on a council before that. John Hunzinger had a job, and a full-time job, and he was a school teacher, but he was a council person prior to becoming president. And of course, Denny Hansen was a ward representative prior to becoming a council president. So to me, that 6 years that I've had on the council is important. It gives you that ability to work with staff, the ability to listen to people. I always use the Mike Tyson quote, everybody has a plan till you get punched in the face. So they sit in the back of the audience and they go, wow, I could do better than that. Well, then they get up at that table and they get a little, it's hard to make those decisions.
Okay, all right. Well, we called you because you're always good for a program and you're good on city issues. And what would you like to talk about?
Well, I think what people have been talking about just recently, and it was sad that we had to do this, but the staff decided not to allow social media replies on our website. It's too hard for us, or on Facebook or any of our social media. So it's hard to watch what people say and what people don't say, and we need to be respectful. So they decided to take that off. MinPost is a news organization in Minnesota. They took their comments off after they found out that 90% of their comments were done by 10 people. And so they decided it wasn't really that most effective. We do allow people to come to our city council meetings for open comment period for 2 minutes. I always pay attention to that. It's hard for people to come and speak, but they can do that. We used to do 4 minutes, but we decided to allow more people. And really and truly, what you want to really say, you can get done in 2 minutes. So that's a big issue for a lot of people. It was not a city council decision, but a staff decision. But we'll see how that goes.
How did the city arrive at that?
Well, it's part of equity and diversity and respect, and you get in there and some people are just rude, and where do you draw that line? It's hard to be an editor of that because cities have a special. I mean, we have other rules. If it's my Facebook page, I can just block you. It's hard for us to do that and do it equitably. And so you either do it all or you don't do any. And so it was decided to do none, and so you can't make those comments.
Okay, all right, and that's just why you did it?
Correct. Probably the next big issue, and I think this is the big one for the next 8 years, is the Mayo Clinic Bound Forward program coming up, $5 billion investment. It's going to be about 18 city blocks that are going to be torn up, streets for sewer and water, storm sewer, and also we'll be closing 3rd and 4th Avenue. That'll be a decision coming to the city council so that we can have the hospital for the future. I mean, this is going to be a world famous hospital as it is now, but this is going to be the one for the future. It's interesting, you go back and look in history, the Methodist Hospital was built, it was one for the history. We had the Worrell Hospital here, we had the Kaler Hospital here. If you look back in our history, we've had, oh gosh, I think it's 10 hospitals we've had in Rochester that were built at the time as the best, but now you know they get torn down and you have to move ahead.
Okay, and is there opposition to that?
There's some. We have a few people, you know, we have a gang of, I call them the gang of 3 people who have been here for Rochester about 3 years, and they complain about everything and they think Rochester should be better. You know, there's some bike lane people who decided that, oh geez, we should hold this all up because biking's important. And you know, these are, you know, people who are riding $4,000 bikes around, and there's very few of them. If you go down to the Gonda building with that bike lane, I feel bad for people because, you know, it's not a safe spot for them, and it's not a safe spot for the drivers. So, you know, there's some opposition to that, but I think overall, I'm very supportive of this, and I think we need to move this ahead faster than we can. It's for the next 8 years, it's gonna be huge in Rochester.
Okay, I know as a Parker, you are never finding enough parking.
Well, yeah, if you're heading to Mayo Clinic for parking as a patient, it's hard at the Damon. They're going to tear down the Damon. But it's interesting for us. Our ramps are about half full, and so we're working right now. My goal would be to get more reasonably priced parking for people who work downtown, who work in the hospital, not the hospitals, but work at the hotels, and the people that work at the restaurants, and people who are personal care people who are visiting somebody from downtown. Where do they park? And if we could get them to park in these empty parking spots, cut the rate down so it makes sense, that would free up some of our parking meters. As Mayor Day, and I talked to Mayor Day, he's 90 years old, sharp as a tack. He liked to refer to it as friendly parking. And how do we get people to remember that this is friendly parking to being in that ramp, get more people in the ramp? I always have to point out too, the ramps are an enterprise fund. So your property tax does not go to the ramps. They are a self-sustaining fund that's in there, and they're there for economic development. They're there for your convenience. I would rather park on the ramp and pay a little bit of money than pay $28 ticket to the state of Minnesota. So that's always tough. Downtown is recovering quite nicely. A lot of downtowns are suffering. St. Paul, Minneapolis, their vacancy rate's about 40%. One of the things that we have going, and people ask you, what's important to Rochester? And number one is public safety. How do you fund police? How do you fund the fire department? How do you feel safe downtown? Not just feel safe, but have it be safe downtown. We have a large emphasis on that. We just passed well, I shouldn't say just, 4 months ago, we passed a homeless ordinance that said that you cannot camp outside in one of our city properties. This came from a 2012 resolution that the city council said that you're not allowed to camp overnight at any of our property. Well, we had some nonprofits that handed out tents and told people that it's not an ordinance and they can't enforce it. So 9 months later, we decided that we would do an ordinance. We passed that ordinance. There were some people who said that, well, the Supreme Court will rule against us. They didn't. The 8th Circuit out of Washington State, that area out there, federal law, they had put some handcuffs on the cities. Supreme Court ruled that no homelessness and tents is a policy issue and not a constitutional issue. So that was very good for us. Now you see Duluth is going to follow us, and they're going to have a stronger camping ordinance than we do.
Good, good. You won one.
We win all the time. It's fun on the city council. You know, there's 7 of us. It takes 4 to make policy, move things ahead. We have an extremely good city council, or we have a really good city administrator. We have a really good city attorney. There are 2 employees. The city of Rochester has about 950 employees, but they're leading us down that route. They're taking the history from the past and they're moving us forward. And again, this next 8 years with this Mayo Clinic project is huge. And I believe it's 4 times bigger than the Viking Stadium, cost-wise. I mean, and right now, the rumor is that they're going to go 4 more stories than they had originally planned, which would be great for us. Employment-wise, it'd be about a 1.5% increase. Next year, we're starting the LINK, the rapid bus system. That's going to run down 2nd Street all the way from Cascade Lake, where they have their parking ramp. It's going to be a 2,500 car parking ramp surrounded by housing, and part of it will be senior housing. You can leave Cascade Lake, you can jump on the bus every 5 minutes during peak, and you can go all the way down to the Fullerton lot, go in front of St. Mary's, go in front of the City Hall, Mayo Clinic. You can go all the way down to past the library, turn around at Fullerton every 5 minutes, free. Mayo Clinic is going to subsidize that for 20 years. We have an agreement with them, and it will be 9 police officers will be assigned to that in around there. It'll be 7 stations. What I think is kind of neat is on 2nd Street in front of St. Mary's, they're going to put a tunnel. So you'll be able to get you won't have to cross the street at 2nd Street anymore, but you'll be able to go underneath the tunnel. That'll be exciting. And you'll see some redevelopment in front of St. Mary's, which is sorely needed to get some more density in.
Good.
Yeah.
Good. Okay. Now, biggest problem facing this city.
Housing. How do we incentivize single-family dwellings? How do we that home owner occupied? As I was coming in today, we were talking to one of my fellow council members who, you know, what we need to do is see not just single-family homes, but also condominiums. How do we incentivize that home ownership in a condo? And that's tough in the state of Minnesota, but I think Rochester can do that. I always say, and I believe that, you know, we have the Housing Coalition here in Rochester, and that's made up of the Mayo Clinic, the Rochester Area Foundation, county, the city, and DMC. And I'm on that committee for the city council. We work together on items that will help make development go faster, better development for Rochester. We just incentivized 201 houses being built. We have 10 houses being incentivized that the Sioux County is going to be building. We took part of our sales tax extension out of the economic fund and moved that into housing so that we can refund fees that are being paid to the city so that it lowers that cost. Part of that fund is ready. You know, our friend Mr. Wade needs $10 million more put into his fund so that he can grow our economy. It's interesting with Ready. They reach out and they're working with a lot of medical companies that want to be here in Rochester, not only because of the Mayo Clinic, but because of IBM and then the University of Minnesota. And how do you get those people to come to Rochester, high-paying jobs, and use the talent that we have here? That's exciting. The other thing that's exciting is that, you know, our sales tax extension passed last year, and we got a $65 million sports facility that we're right now designing, trying to pick a location for that. Once that's picked, that'll be really good because it'll do 2 things for us. It'll give our people in Rochester residents some place to go play with artificial turf for soccer and baseball and softball, have some indoor tennis courts, have some indoor pickleball courts, basketball courts, a nice walking track. Probably in Northwest Rochester, it probably is the location that's not been picked by the city council. But the neat thing about that is that we're setting it up so that you can have tournaments there. So you can bring soccer teams in, or you can bring baseball teams in. And Rochester has a lot of hotel rooms, but on the weekends we're empty. And so using that same infrastructure, those hotels, those employees, and having them be able to work 6 and 7 days a week, that'll be exciting for us. And that's a low-hanging fruit to make Rochester even better.
That'll be great for downtown.
Correct. And then, you know, one of the questions last night at the league was about the dam, Silver Lake Dam. The city council voted 6-1. I didn't vote for it. To spend $800,000 more for how do we engineer this properly. And I always say, and I want people to understand, we will never lose our flood control. The city won't let that happen. The city council won't let that happen. And the Corps of Engineers will not. So if we end up with anything, it will be a better flood control system. Part of the messaging that's been wrong on this entire project is they called it a dam modification. Well, we're really removing the dam. We're really moving it upstream 750 feet. So the elevation of the lake will still be there. You'll have a lake, it'll be smaller. The other thing that we're missing on our messaging is that people think we're putting trails in. We have no money for the trails. We have not gotten a grant. And so there's some messaging there. It'll be interesting after the $800,000 is spent for engineering. What do they come up with? How do we make this new dam function? And is it what the citizens of Rochester want? That'll be an interesting discussion.
And you voted against it?
I did, and part of the reason is that I'm not happy with how we did this. I'm not happy how we went to the state of Minnesota and asked for money. There's 3 things in this application that bothered me a lot. They said that if you think about it from a staffer perspective who's sitting in an office in St. Paul and you read, we're going to add 16 miles of fish habitat, you have an unsafe dam, and it's 100 years old. I'm going to get the grant. Well, the real facts of the whole thing is in '94 we redid the dam, so the dam is not 100 years old. The 16 miles of fish habitat really and truly is going to be Silver Creek, which dries up about every 3 years. And we have 9 upstream dams from there for flood control. And how do you deal with those 9 upstream dams? And so there's a cost there that just I'm not comfortable with. They keep talking about a north trail. There's 15 houses along that trail. City of Rochester owns most of the property, but not at 2 lots. The cost of that is about $2.7 million. And is that really where we want to spend $2.7 million? The other thing that people will complain about is that crossing Broadway is dangerous. I cross that 2-3 times a week. We're redoing North Broadway. We had some federal dollars coming that got delayed, but this year we'll start it, and next year we'll finish it. But at Silver Lake Foods, there's a free right when you're heading north. That's going to be eliminated, and if you're going to cross the road, you will have stoplight that nobody can come and turn in front of you. Right now, if you're coming off 14th Street, turning south onto Broadway, you have a left turn lane and light, and people can try to run you over, and we don't want that. Now, that in the last 12 years, there has been no accidents there, and so there are some people who call it the triangle of death, or that it's really dangerous, or they don't want their 8-year-old to cross it. You know, it's as safe as it can be. You know, I mean, if you're going to put cars on a road, you're going to have to take some responsibility. The other neat thing, we just talked about this the other day, and this is kind of in that concept plan, but from Civic Center Drive down to 6th Street South, where the fire station is, do we take it down to a 1 lane and going both directions, but add turn lanes, and then have pedestrians cross at the midpoint so that you can only need to cross 1 lane of traffic. You have 1 through lane, so there's nobody making a left-hand turn in front of you or a right-hand turn, but you have 1 through lane, you have a right-hand turn lane. That's something that I think is intriguing that might make Broadway not such a big cavern for people, and so we're kind of excited to look at that. We have traffic people kind of pull their hair out. I think there's 8,000 cars a day that go through there. I'd be in favor of that if we can prove that you'll move through there smoother and not have that much of a delay. So a lot of things are happening, and it's nice to be in a city that's growing. The tax base right now in St. Paul and Minneapolis is declining. Their property values on their houses are going down. Their property values on their commercial are going down. They're about 40% vacancy in their retail in offices. That hurts. We are rebounding. Shaun Fagan just became the director for RDA. Kathleen Harrington just left them. She changed that emphasis to being more stuff to do downtown. Kathleen did a phenomenally good job. Shaun Fagan will do a phenomenally good job of interacting with the businesses and how do we grow downtown to be a destination that everyone wants to go to.
Yeah. I mean, yes, that really is important to the city. All right. Now, housing is the most important problem, you said,
Yes.
facing the city. And are we still in need of housing?
We are. The Maxfield study, which is the study that was done, we've had it twice, and now we're doing another one. The number for actual single-family dwellings is 900 houses are needed each and every year. We're doing 200. And when we started this entire episode of looking at this, or how do we solve this problem, I met with over 80 different people on different ideas. When we first started out, at least I did, with we need to really emphasize just the entry-level homes. Well, now we said any home is a good home, so that we have people moving up. So if you own a house, $250,000 value, your family's grown, and you want to buy a $500,000 house, there's that. So that opens up the $250,000 house, and that moves things around. It's been interesting running for office. I've been talking to a lot of business people, and the one question I ask them is, if your employees own a home, how many of them own a home in Rochester? About 20% is all. 80% of people working in the entry-level jobs are living outside of Rochester, which means they're traveling to Rochester to work, which is not good for Rochester and not good for them. If we can eliminate one car for them, you save $9,000 a year, which is a lot of money for a family to save. So if you can go down to one car versus two, go back to the rapid bus system. If I know that bus is going to run every 5 minutes, and I know that it's clean, and I know that it's safe, and I know it's going to run until 11 o'clock at night, so if I have to work overtime, I can do that. That will be a huge advantage for Rochester.
Okay. All right. Next problem.
Well, they're not problems. They're opportunities to have us be better, is the way I look at it. Probably one of the bigger ones is how do we handle working together with the county, and how do we work together with the school district? I always use the example of the school district, sitting down with the superintendent, talking to him about gyms. We needed more gyms. We suggested a pilot program. The city invested in that pilot program. It was successful. Now their community ed is going to take it over. That was a 7-0 vote for the city council that we did that one. We're meeting with the county board in August 21st on homelessness, and how do we get to zero homelessness, which is kind of a misnomer. It just doesn't increase the number of homeless who are in Rochester. We have a homeless overnight shelter. We have a overflow for that. That's the city council's funding for $50,000. How do we work with our county partners? And we do. And it's nice to have the colleagues we have on the county board who are willing to sit down and talk to your city council members and look at stuff in the future and how that's going. So that's a big advantage for Rochester.
Okay. The city is growing. The needs grow along with the city, and transportation is a big problem.
Yeah, and what we're trying to do with transportation, again, that rapid bus will be a huge help, but we're also adding up at the rec center that when they built the 125 Live, they didn't have enough parking. They thought people would park at Kellogg and they'd walk down on the weekends, and I don't know if you've driven by there, but between hockey and swimming, that's an overflow. It's great to see all these families here in Rochester and people coming to be here in Rochester, but we're building a parking ramp. We have federal money for that. Which is a big deal. We got some state funding for that. So that'll be built at the old Podine building. It's an old rec building that looks white. That's where the newspaper used to be delivered out of. But we own that property, and we're going to build a ramp there. The advantage, and this is what Rochester tries to do, is really look at advantages to how do we get the biggest bang for our buck. So during the week, you can drive down North Broadway, you can hit that ramp, you can grab the bus, you can get downtown. And then on the weekends, we can use it for sports events. And so it's going to be wonderful for Rochester. Good bang for our buck is what I like to say. The other thing that's been interesting to happening in Rochester is that we've got Safe City Nights going on. So the police department, fire department, and everybody else gets together and he picks up a school and they have a party. The last one they had 1,100 hot dogs. Quick Trip helps out with that, and Custom Design does, and some other companies do, the Custom Alarm, I should say. helps out with that, funding that. But it's neat to have all the neighbors there. It's neat to see the city booths that are there. They get to see firemen, they get to see policemen, they get to see people, they get to see a street sweeper, they usually get to see a ladder truck. So it's nice for them to see what we have in the city of Rochester, and it's nice to see people get together in their neighborhood. I enjoy going to those are always fun to go to.
Okay, now the campaign, is it costing you a lot of money to run for office?
Well, it always does. You know, you have to have your dollars for marketing. So I'm lucky. I know a lot of people in Rochester. We have raised less than $100 from 320 people. And so our finances is all from Rochester. I have a few people who have given us a little bit more, but all from Rochester. And so we'll have sent out 3 mailings to all the registered voters to inform them who we are. We have 5 billboards, which is important to have. You're out in the neighborhood talking to people. And so we'll get to this primary, and then we'll hit the general election, and that'll probably be another $30,000, which is a reasonable rate. I mean, in past, that's about what a citywide race costs. There's about 80,000 voters in Rochester. We expect to have maybe 12,000 for the primary. So it's hard to figure out what 12,000 people are gonna be there. And so I love campaign season. I really do, because you get out and talk to people and listen to people. I've always liked to fundraise. I always set my limit at $100 because it just seems to be reasonable. And I do carry $100 in my pocket. If somebody says they want a refund, I'll give it to them. I have not had anybody take me up on that, but that to me is fun. It's fun to watch new people in the wards come out. You know, we have some really good candidates in the 2nd, 4th, and 6th ward who are out there knocking on doors and sweating in this type of weather and getting signs out there, going to forums and going to debates, and I enjoy the debates. To me, that's a fun experience to let people know what you know. I have a good depth of knowledge, as I think you know, and I have a passion for Rochester. I tell people, you know, I'm very direct, but I'm very sincere. I'm very positive. I always look at what we can do. I think that's important for people to hear, that a positive outlook, and because I believe you can. You know, as you know, I run marathons, and marathon is a date that you start your run, you work your way backwards and say, hey, this is what I need to do to get to that goal. Campaign is the same. You know, we have August 13th, that's the primary. How do you lay out your program? What do you need to do? How do you clear the decks? But for me, it's a fun experience.
Okay, what would be your main concern if you are elected president of the city council?
You know, I tell everybody that we're a guide. When you're the city council president, you're guiding your city council members, you're guiding the staff to a policy. And what policy do we want to have? It's not about you, it's not about an agenda. My agenda, quite frankly, always has been, every decision I make, I always go with what is best for Rochester. And that's it. I mean, if you look at an issue and go, what is best for Rochester? I respect a lot of our city council members. Gordy Bloom is one of them, and Mayor Day is one of them, who made that decision to bring the federal prison here. And they knew that was going to be, they believed it was going to be very good. And they lost their elections. And you know, you sit down with Gordy and ask him, and he goes, nope, I did what was best for Rochester. You know, and Mary Day said the same thing. And now in hindsight, you look at it and go, that was a pretty good deal to have that here in Rochester and use that state hospital the way that it's used. So I respect people in the past who took that effort. You know, service was king to them. And as you know, I worked at the YMCA for Chuck Ozama, and Chuck Ozama had that instilled into you working at the Y, that you have those values, you service, that's what you're here to do. And I've installed that in my children, and I've installed it myself, and I enjoy that, and I think it's a huge advantage.
Okay, what about the partisanship problem? It has not surfaced as a problem before.
Well, we have 2 candidates that asked for the DFL to help them out with their campaign, and it's not really the DFL that you know. It's the Socialist Democrats from the cities who are coming down to Rochester, and they're doing it for campaign reasons that won't help them in the office. You know, Mayor Mayor Norton wrote a editorial, and so did Sheila Cassaden, saying we do not want county commissioners or city council members to be partisan, and I've always believed that. You know, my example is our governor is a Democrat, our first district congressman is a Republican. I have 2 state senators, one from each party. There's an advantage to doing that, and you don't want to have them go, well, you're not in our party. And so for me, I would never want to be a partisan. I've never have been a partisan. I don't see the advantage to it, and most people don't. The people who are in the DFL in Rochester that I know don't want this to happen. And I think that when you see the mayor step up and you see Commissioner Cassaden step up and say that, I've not met anybody who says this is a good idea. But you have 2 people. We got Miller in the 2nd ward, and we got Schubring running for president, who decided this was important to them, that they wanted to do that. I disagree with it, as I think you've caught on to, but most people have.
Okay, all right. One last comment from you to your voters and to the people who watch.
You know, that election coming up here on August 13th is huge, and it's one day. You get out and vote. You can vote right now. You can go to City Hall and vote. You can stop at the campus out here and vote. And if you do that, you know, pick your best choice. And it's important to get out there. If you think about 10% of the people coming out to Rochester to vote, and then it comes to the general election, you've eliminated 1 or 2 people. And so it's important to get out there and vote. Go to their website. You can go to my website. You can go to my opponent's website. You can go to the city clerk's office, go to elections, and you can see a link to everybody's. You can go to the state of Minnesota, Secretary of State. You can see a link. You go to the League of Women Voters, go to the public library. You can watch any one of our debates. And I'm talking all 3 wards. You're talking about the city council. And tonight you have the county commissioners who have their primary. That'll be tonight. It's important for you to get out and be involved.
All right, and thank you for joining us and bringing us up to date on city issues, as well as your campaign. And take care.
Thank you very much. I appreciate everything you do.
And thank you, our viewers, for your interest in the city government and the city of Rochester as to how it relates to wherever you live. And we'll be with you next week, same time, same channel. Have a very good week.